Alrighty. I think we just have one person in there. Tarika, I appreciate you being here live and being patient. Let's see here. Best way to do this. Alrighty. So the weekly check-ins are just going to be sort of an explanation of what assignments we're going to be going over this week. There is a lot I know that we have to cover every week, and so I just want to make sure that the directions are clear and there's no confusion on what is expected from each of the assignments. So let's go ahead and get started. So as always, you can always go over here to the course information to see what assignments are due for the week. We are currently on week 2, the 22nd through the 28th. And we've got 2 modules due this week and all of the work and the ed puzzles that are within those. So module 2 is going to be going over our elements of art, which are just sort of like the basic foundational like parts of creating an artwork. I kind of like to call the elements the ingredients of artwork, just like with, cooking and baking and that sort of thing. Everything requires ingredients, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the product of any combination of those ingredients is going to be a successful thing, which leads us to module 3, which are the principles of art or principles of design. And the principles are, in comparison to ingredients, sort of like the recipes to making the ingredients come together well and make something successful. I talk more about this in the Ed Puzzle video, so I won't go too much into it right now. I want to just kind of stick to making sure that the assignments that are within those modules make sense to you. So if you haven't already done the Ed Puzzles, that's no big deal. But I would definitely watch them before you start trying to do the assignments. And so, for module 2, watch the Ed Puzzles 3 through 5, and then do your quiz, and then do your lesson 3 line drawing discussion, and then move on to module 3. So we've got all the ed puzzles. There are 5 lessons in total. There's some more in the folders, so make sure if there's any extra ones that are there that you watch those. But definitely lessons 3 through 7 are what is the bulk of our content this week. For each module, just like with all the modules, there is a quiz component to those. So you've got 2 quizzes this week as well, quiz 2 and quiz 3. And then you also have a couple more assignments. You've got the lesson 3 line drawing discussion and the art analysis assignment. So let's go ahead and jump over to those modules to see what those look like. So module 2, all the kind of info is on that first page there. You'll see here is our first quiz that is open right there. And then at the bottom here is our Ed Puzzle folder. There may just be there's only one additional one that we've got for this week. It's How We See Color. And then those 3 that are right there, lessons 3 and 4, 4 and 5, and then 5. Okay. Now, and then also I meant to say this as well. If you do better with sort of following along with the PowerPoint instead of just like watching it as I'm like talking about it, you can always download the PowerPoint right here, and it'll let you like kind of follow along with the ed puzzles and then with the videos. That's helpful to some people, and then you can always like kind of go back and study that instead of just having to watch the whole ed puzzle video again. So that's for you to download if you'd like to. So the lesson 3 line drawing discussion, remember the discussion posts do require you to respond to another student. I had a couple issues with that. With the first discussion, just the thread looked good, initial post, you answered all the questions, but if you don't comment to other students, then you can get points taken off. So just make sure that you acknowledge whether or not it's just an assignment or a discussion type assignment, and make sure you don't get those points taken off. And then there's a few reminders up here as well that I always put about how to create a discussion and just all of that good stuff. So the line drawing discussion, lesson 3 explores different varieties and qualities of line, for example, implied, psychic, and gesture. And this assignment investigates the expressive qualities of line in the work of the artist Soloit. So Solowit was actually an architect, and after doing architecture and like blueprint designs for several years, after he retired, he decided that he wanted to start creating artworks and like murals and paintings instead, but using a very similar format to how he had done architecture, which essentially is that he does not really create anything. He makes the plans for them and then has other people execute those plans. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a little fun game because you never really know how these artworks are going to turn out just based on the directions. I've got a few different ones here that you can look at, and then this one right here is one of those from the Beckler Museum in Charlotte. It's just wall drawing number 995. So essentially, how this works is that um, the art gallery or a person will buy the instructions and own the rights to the instructions that Solowit creates, and then they will interpret those instructions to create their own artwork from. But obviously, if you give these instructions to 10 different people, you're going to have different results every time. It's not designed to where it's like going to be totally the same each time you do it. So I've got us doing a little exercise sort of like that based on Solowit's ideas. And we're going to be creating our own Solowit kind of mini drawing just on paper with pencils and stuff. Um, so first you need to review lesson 3 to understand the types of line that I'm giving you in the instructions. And just to make sure that there's no confusion on what's being asked of you, and just kind of what's dealing with this assignment. You'll need to collect some supplies in task 2. Nothing too intense or anything. You go as kind of big or little as you want to on this, as far as like the materials that you use. Um, if you have a pencil and you have a piece of paper, that's really all you need. I would recommend using lineless paper, just like copy paper, if you can. It kind of gets confusing if you use like notebook paper for this because those lines interfere with like the lines that you're creating. But if you don't have anything else, that's fine too. So what you'll do is you need an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Don't go any smaller than that. You need a little bit more space to kind of create this whole thing with. And you will need a ruler or a straight edge. If you don't have a ruler, you can just use like the edge of your computer or your book or your phone or whatever. And then you'll follow the instructions. So remember that there is no right or wrong way to interpret the instructions listed below. I encourage you to think outside of the box. Some instructions are intentionally pretty vague, so you'll use divergent thinking. So I'm not going to read out all the instructions, but just a couple to start with. You'll divide your paper into 6 boxes of equal size. In one of the boxes, randomly place 5 dots, connect the dots using a ruler, and it goes on like that. So it's pretty vague. It's not super specific or anything. And really, as long as I can tell that you tried and that you, gave it your best effort, then you should be fine on this. When you are talking about so you'll upload that photo that you have, drawn on paper. Just take a picture of it with your phone, and try to remove any edges or anything. Make sure it's a nice, clean picture of it. And then you'll attach that photo to your thread and then briefly describe the different qualities that lines in your finished drawing possess, which this is what you will use lesson 3 for. You'll need to use some vocabulary from our PowerPoint and, talking about different types of line and quality of line and all that sort of stuff. Be sure to use at least 2 vocabulary words from our lesson that are in the PowerPoint or in the Edpuzzle talk when you're talking about your drawing. I would say probably like 100 to 150 words is really all you need for your description here. That's sort of just like the baseline of what you need for that. I would, make sure that you're speaking in full sentences and that sort of thing. And then after you post your initial thread, you'll need to respond to a classmate. Only one classmate this time. I know the last one we had to do 3, but it's just 1 this time. And respond to the classmate by identifying and correctly utilizing at least 2 vocabulary terms as well. So you'll need to not only identify those things in your drawing, but also in someone else's drawing as well. But you only have to do it to one person, so it's not like you're doing this a million times. It's really just one other thread. And that's pretty much it for module 2. So that after you get done watching the ed puzzles, definitely do that before you do anything else. You can take your quiz and just remember to watch out for these warnings that are here. Make sure that you know there's only one attempt per quiz. You can't go back and take the quiz again. Once you've opened the quiz, you only have 20 minutes to complete the quiz. So make sure that you don't like start it and then walk away. Don't accidentally like click away from the page or like try to like skip to the next page. It's only one sheet. So once you press OK or finish or whatever, it's at the bottom there, then that will save your attempt. So, you know, make sure that you just read that before you start and that, you know, I can reopen the quiz for you, but I'm not going to do it like a million times if it's just like a, you know, mistake that is one of the things that are listed here that I'm already warning you about. It's a whole process to reopen the quiz the way that I have it set up. So just try to follow those instructions clearly. And yeah, let's move to the modules again to go to module 3. So same deal here. We've got the ed puzzles here. I think we just have 2 ed puzzles. I don't think I added any other ones here. Yep, just lesson 6 and 7 in the ed puzzles. And then quiz 3, which again is the same deal as quiz 2 and all of the quizzes. It's usually they're like 8 to 10 questions and they're all multiple choice, true or false, short answer style questions. So the art analysis assignment, this is a bigger assignment. I will say it's a little bit more involved than the discussion is going to be. It is a paper. So this is going to require you to definitely do all of the other assignments before you get to this point. The first thing that you'll want to do is review lesson 1, obviously, and then you'll also need to have lessons 1 through 7 really to fully get the extent of this assignment. You will select one work of art from Google Art and Culture. It cannot be the one that you chose for your icebreaker assignment. You need to choose a different one since you've already done research on that one. It can be from somewhere else too, but Google Art and Culture will definitely have all the information that you need to kind of like elaborate further on the assignment. And if it's one that you know isn't coming from Google Art and Culture, I can't guarantee that same thing will happen there. So once you select your artwork, it can be from any museum or gallery in Google Art and Culture, but be sure to cite the gallery name, the artist name, the artwork title, and the medium, and include a high quality image of the work in your document. In the first part of the icebreaker, I show you how to create a label for that. And so if you need to kind of reference back to that just to kind of like, you know, make sure that you know how to cite this properly in sort of like a vertical format, then that would be something I would look back on for sure. So this is a 500 to 600 word analysis of the work. Your analysis should be between 500 and 600 words and should include detailed information about the work, where it is located, its formal elements and principles of design, and your interpretation of its content and how it relates to the content to create unity. Create your work as a document and save it as a PDF. An image of your, like I said, an image of your work is required, and this is all about information about labeling again. So this is the most important part probably of these instructions. This is laying out exactly how I want you to set up the paper, and really as long as you follow this, you should be in pretty good shape. The first paragraph, it's 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph will need to include the name, location of the museum, title of the artwork, all that stuff that's in the label. But I want you to tell me about it in a non like bullet format. So you want to, you know, create proper full sentences in essay format and just give me a little synopsis about what it is that I'm looking at. The next paragraph is about form. And as we talked about in lesson 2, form is how the work is module 2 and module 3 as well after you've watched the ed puzzles. But form is how the work of art has been organized. So how the elements have been used to define the principles. So when writing about formal elements and principles of organization, imagine you are describing the chosen work to someone who can't see it. Be sure to use the vocabulary that you have learned so far in lessons 3 through 7. And here are some questions that you should think about, but be sure not to limit yourself. How is harmony being created? Where is the focal point at? What kind of balance is being used? How is the space and the composition arranged? And again, you can add more to that, and you don't have to answer all of those necessarily, but essentially you're just telling me, how does an element like color play a part in the organization? Does color, help us understand how variety is achieved, or does form or mass help us understand how balance is created, and so forth? That's essentially what you're doing here. Is how are the ingredients becoming recipes, or how are the elements of art helping us to organize our principles of design and make a successful composition? So the third paragraph is about the content. So remember, in lesson 1, we talk about this 3 different like main types of what makes up an artwork. The subject matter, which is like physically what is in front of you, the form, which is how it's organized, and the content, which is about the meaning of the work. And all those things should sort of like connect together if it's being successful. The content should be relayed through the form, and the subject matter is, defining the form as well. So the content, when writing about the content, back up your opinion in a thoughtful way and make sure to research any additional theories given by the artist or critics, and create a proper MLA citation for any research that you use for this. And then lastly, your last paragraph should consider the main aspects of form, how the image is composed of the formal elements and principles of design that you have described in paragraph 2, and then relate them to the content of the work. So, how is the content coming across based on the principles of design? So how, if the piece is suggesting that they're, and the content of the piece is supposed to be very like moody and sort of melancholy, maybe like sort of depressing, maybe color is something that activates that. So if there's a lot of blues, if there's a lot of like cool or more muted colors in there, that's something that adds to that content that is related to the form, if that makes sense. So yeah, talk about how the form relates to content. This should summarize how form relates to content and create unity in a work of art. Avoid using or exceeding 600 words for this. And honestly, I know 600 words sounds like it's going to be a lot. However, once you start answering all these questions, you'll get 600 words, no problem. And then lastly, to submit your work, create a document with the following: your chosen image labeled correctly, the 4 paragraphs as stated above, and then save your document to the computer and upload it as a PDF or a Word document. Make sure this is something that you haven't had to do before because we haven't had an assignment before this. But when you go to upload your work, and here's some important reminders as well about that. When it's going to look like this, so you'll click on the assignment and it'll tell you the due date and all of that. When you go to the bottom here, though, there's 2 boxes that you can write in, and it's very, very common that people will just copy and paste from like a Word document into this box right here because it's already open for you. However, this is the comments box. So this is like if you have like a hey, I had an issue with this. Let me know if you can see it right. That's something that's appropriate there, or I can add comments back to your paper there. But do not upload your paper to that. It's going to compress everything. It's not going to put everything in paragraph form. It's also not going to go through our safe assign plagiarism checker, which is very problematic as well. So when you go to submit your assignment, either click this box here that says write submission in the assignment submission part, and you can copy and paste it into here if you'd like to. But preferably, I would like for you to attach it as a file so that way that I can run the file through the plagiarism checker, and also it'll just keep the formatting like correct and it won't compress anything. But yeah, that's what I would do. Just save it as a PDF and then post it into there. One other thing to be mindful of, don't share if you're using Google Docs or another like place where you can like link your work to the assignment. That it will not work for Blackboard as well. So don't accidentally just like copy and paste your Google Doc URL into the submission and think that I can like link it back to that. It's not going to go through the plagiarism checker either. So it won't work for this. And there's a reminder about that as well right there. And then also, just another thing for this assignment, do not choose Starry Night. That is one that this paper is just like there are hundreds, if not thousands, of essays that are on Starry Night that are addressing this exact prompt. Don't use Starry Night unless you want to have some points taken off from that. And I also like to use Starry Night because it is a pretty general artwork that everybody is familiar with to some extent. And so I use that a lot to like describe assignments. And so I'm not wanting you to use one that I'm already kind of like giving you background information about. In lessons 3 through 7, I use Starry Night a lot of the times to sort of like express, how form is used or how color is used and so on. And so it's just a little bit reductive to use that for your artwork for this assignment. But that is all we have due for this week. I know it's not, I say that like there's, not a whole lot due, but just make sure that if you have any questions or any concerns or anything about any of those assignments that you let me know before Friday. Once it gets into the weekend, I can't, if there's like an issue with like your computer or Blackboard or something like that, it's hard for me to, or specifically with you anyway, if it's, the whole class is experiencing, obviously that's different. But if you're for some reason not able to log into your Blackboard account or forgot your password or something like that, it becomes difficult for me to contact people that will need to help you with that sort of issue if it's going into the weekend. So if you do have any concerns about this, just do not try at least not to wait until after 5 on Friday to address those things, and try to get your uploading and submissions done as soon as possible, just in case there is any error or anything. And then the last reminder I want to give, and I think that everybody is good so far, so I really appreciate that. It's always good to have everybody on board early on. If you haven't already completed your course entry quiz, though, and you're watching this video, please make sure that you do that today. This is the last day to submit our course entry quiz. And if I don't hear from you after today, then you will be marked as never attended and be withdrawn from the class. So I think that most everybody is good. I only have, I think, one maybe that I haven't heard back from. So I appreciate your promptness in that and just, taking the course seriously and, getting things done as quickly as you can. So that's pretty much all I've got for today. If you have any other questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to me. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. But if there's any questions from anyone here live, definitely we can talk about that now, but I will stop the recording before that in case it's something that is doesn't need to be recorded.